Hey, what's going on everyone? So I kind of wanted to make this video as we get very close to the Disney and Fox deal going through, as a lot of people had been asking me, as kind of the resident Alien and Predator fan on the channel, what might happen to those properties once this deal actually lines up. Because I think the main talking point has been essentially the Marvel characters, you know, the X-Men and everything, going back to Marvel Studios proper, and then of course the Star Wars licensing rights. But what people are forgetting are the other franchises like Planet of the Apes, Avatar, Alien, Predator, and so on, you know, a bunch of different things. I think Fox even has like the Agatha Christie books or something. So in regards to Alien and Predator specifically, I would say that their future is kind of up in the air, because we all know that the Shane Black film is coming whether we like it or not next August, which a lot of people seem decidedly mixed on just based off the promos and the kind of synopsis and leaks that had floated out over the past few months. We also know that Ridley Scott really wants to make another Alien prequel film. Whether or not that happens, we have to wait and see, but it's certainly on his radar and wish list. I mean, right now I think he's prepping to film his next movie called The Cartel, which I think begins shooting in January or February. And then he's obviously wrapping up all the money in the world, so he has a ton of projects in development. I mean, whether or not the Alien thing actually comes up next year, we don't know yet, because it took quite a while for Covenant to come around. I mean, it wasn't like he was rushing out to make a sequel to Prometheus, because if you guys remember, he took like 5 years in between and made like 3 or 4 other films that people were kind of mixed on as well. So I think that if Ridley does make another Alien film, it will probably be a ways off, and we might not even get it until 2019 or 2020 at this point. And who's to say Disney might step in and overturn him at that point as well? Because when you look at it and you take in everything into account, what Disney's done with their other IPs that they've acquired like Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios, and even Pixar to a lesser extent, they've kind of rebranded them and took them in new directions. Like, for instance, I'll take Lucasfilm. With that, they took the Star Wars IP and essentially said everything prior to us having it is done. None of that is canon anymore. We're going to make and forge a whole new universe for this property, which is what we're getting with the new films like Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One, and so on. Now, I have to imagine that Disney would understand that the Alien and Predator franchises are very viable. You know, they're huge science fiction icons. They're widely recognized. You know, I think anyone you take a picture of a xenomorph, they'd know, oh, that's from the Alien movie. Or you take a picture of a Predator, they're like, yeah, that's a Predator, you know. They're two of the most iconic movie monsters out there. Now, I have to imagine that Disney would want to also do a similar treatment like they did with the Star Wars franchise and kind of take it in a brand new direction, but also plan towards a cinematic universe, because that's what Disney likes doing as well, building up a big brand and license for these characters. So honestly, if this deal was going to go through, I think that we could be seeing a potential reboot or redirection for the Alien and Predator franchises, but with a more focus on a cohesive universe, uniting the two brands together and putting them in sort of a cinematic universe like we've seen with Star Wars and Marvel. Now, whether I think this is a good thing, I honestly do, because at the moment, I mean, it seems like Fox has really kind of had no clear direction for either of these franchises for quite a while, especially Predator. It seems like ever since the first film, they haven't really cracked or figured out what to do with the character. I mean, they did Predator 2, which I personally like, and I know a lot of people love it as well, but you have to admit it wasn't the smashing success they were hoping for, and when they tried to reboot it with the whole Robert Rodriguez film that Nimron Antal directed, that didn't really reinvigorate the franchise to like a huge success and people like clamoring for another movie. It was just kind of like a modest box office return. It kind of went away, and now we're getting a new film 8 years later. And then of course, you know, people have been soured to the Ridley Scott prequel films of recently, and they're not entirely on board with his direction for the franchise, and honestly a lot of people would have rather seen the whole Neil Blomkamp project. So if Disney does get their hands on the Alien and Predator franchises, I think we could be seeing a whole new deal coming for their universes, and one that I honestly would welcome at this point, because I read a Deadline article actually yesterday that kind of outlines the entire deal and how the merger between both studios would work and everything. How would Disney integrate their film studio? One of the things that people have been very hesitant about is, would Disney put out R-rated films? And the simple answer is they would just use Fox to do that. It's not like Fox would go away completely. It's still a viable studio and everything. Disney would just creatively control them. so it's not hard to imagine that Disney would just put their R-rated and more adult content through a subsidiary or a sub-studio like Fox or whatever Fox Searchlight Pictures has or something like that. But what do you guys think about this? Would you like to see a whole fresh take on the Alien and Predator franchises, potentially a whole cinematic universe shared idea crossover thing? Because personally, I think that's where the brand and the franchise needs to go to get it out of the depths that it's in right now. And for more updates on all the Disney and Fox deal stuff, and of course the upcoming Shane Black Predator film and whatever Ridley Scott is planning, be sure to subscribe to Hybrid Network. Thanks again for checking this video out. If you want to get even more updates from us, check out our social media platforms, our website for the latest news and editorials, and if you want to see our content get better, donate to us on Patreon for exclusive rewards.